Hello, today's live is all about how to know if detox is needed in the autistic child without lab testing. So I posted different polls on social media. Detox was the most popular topic that people wanted to talk about. So that is what this live is all about. And we'll certainly get into it. I definitely have some different products to show. We can talk about a lot. I'm just going to say, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will be monitoring them. I might have to put my glasses on. But let's get started. We'll get started about detox. Okay, so I know detox, it's just exhausting because there's so much to detox, right? It's not if there's only one thing to detox from. There's not. So it's easy to miss something when doing detox, that's for sure. So detox is a topic that can feel overwhelming. There's many different options. There's also conflicting advice, so be careful as to where you take advice from. And today we're going to try and cut through all of that confusion and talk science and talk about symptoms and signs so that it can help you figure out, okay, is detox, is that my priority? Because it's not for every single child a priority. Many times it's involved somehow, but in the beginning or even in the middle, it doesn't necessarily have to be detox as an absolute priority. So it's important to keep that in mind. Detox is important, but it's not the number one priority for everybody involved. Okay, so I wrote a few notes just so that I make sure I cover topics. I can't help it. I'm a bit of an organized person, so I don't want to waste your time on here. So I do have some notes. Oh, and this is the merch. So if you want to support the channel, I love this. I speak fluent meltdown. It is very true. And it's something that I'm very proud of. I definitely am very proud of being able to basically handle any situation with grace and ease for the most part. And it took many years to get that as a skill for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the role of detox in the body and why it matters for autism. Okay, so detox systems. Let's first just get on the same page for that. So we have the liver, the kidney, the gut, and lymphatic system. You also can include the skin in there. So there's certain aspects to the body that can be included in detox, but those are the main of them. And the body is built to detoxify, right? So this is not some fancy buzzword on social media. Detox is something new. No, our bodies have been built to do it. Now, some kids with autism do have genetic changes that make detoxing a bit harder. So that is something that certainly can happen, but it's not always. So sometimes kids, if you do a DNA, they're not having any genetic issues related to detox, but yet maybe they were exposed to something at such a high level or continuously that detox becomes an issue. So I want to make sure you understand DNA is not the final answer when it comes to, is detox an issue? Let's see. So what happens when detox is sluggish is that toxins can accumulate. And I get questions like this from parents often, like, how come my one child is okay and my other child is not, right? So it can be that buildup of detox. And everyone detoxes differently, and everyone's exposed to toxins differently. Sleep is also a really important aspect to detox. So if you have one kid who sleeps great and another kid who doesn't, the child who is not sleeping would have a more likelihood of issues with detox just because their body is not able to do that at night when that's when it's supposed to. So when these detox pathways are sluggish or overwhelmed, right, then that's when the toxins can accumulate and potentially contribute to inflammation, oxidative stress, neurological symptoms, right? So when the body detoxes at night, many of it is going on in the brain, right? So that's when neurological symptoms can show itself based upon the inability to detox, right? So there's definitely things that go hand in hand that way. And again, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat below. I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, so that's basically the role of detox and why it matters for autism. So it does, but not for every single person with autism. All right, now let's go into signs that detox might be overburdened. So digestive issues, and there's going to be a lot of overlap, but digestive issues. So if you remember, the gut is one of the main ways that the body detoxes, right? You got to eliminate. So you got to eliminate. It's got to come out with either pee or poo, right? And so digestive system is involved in both of those. So constipation really impacts detox and the ability to move things out. Unfortunately, I see a lot of parents who try to do detox, especially heavy metal detox, so using chelators and stuff, and their child is still constipated. So maybe they're not pooping for 4 days or 2 days or stuff. And that's an issue. So you can't just go in and detox and be like, all right, I'm just going to get rid of everything. Because if your child's not pooping, then that elimination pathway, like how is it getting out of the body, literally out of the body? That's really important. Diarrhea also impacts detox. So if someone is, having their stools be extremely frequent, a lot of times they're detoxing inappropriately. So that is something to keep in mind. And bloating. So bloating gives the sign of, okay, there's gas in there. Things aren't being processed, right? That's why you're having excess gas. So the bloating indicates poor elimination, right? So when you're thinking of the gut, you want to think elimination. So you want the food to get digested really nicely, to transit appropriately. So, about 24 hours or so, you'd like to have at least one poop a day. And if it's different than that, then that's where the gut can contribute to sluggish detox pathways. Okay, next one is skin reactions. So skin reactions like rashes, eczema, sensitivity to fabrics, lotions. So some kids are very sensitive if they walk into like a department store that has perfume, right? Something with a strong odor. It's just, it's too much, right? And again, that could be related to detox because the body's supposed to normally handle these kinds of things. But if it's overwhelmed already and you expose it to more, you'll get some signs. So skin rashes, eczema, sensitivities to lotions, things along those lines, shampoos, that kind of stuff can really signal that detox is an issue, and the skin is what's showing you. Now, the skin is great for detoxing, right? That's why we use sauna. So the sauna sweat and we move everything through our skin. So when you see something like a rash or eczema or anything along those lines, you do want to start thinking, okay, where is this coming from? And is this rash only at particular times? Sometimes like eczema, it can kind of flare up and flare down. What's related to that flare? Sometimes food triggers it. Unfortunately, there is a lot of toxicity in different food. There's even heavy metals. I've actually gotten 2 warnings from stores that I've bought food from who a few months after I had already eaten it have said, oh, I'm sorry, there was some metal issues. There were small pieces of metal in the food. And it's just like, okay, so if if you see this correlation to something that, let's say, someone is eating, it certainly is legitimate that that food might have something in it that is not on the label, right? That certainly can happen. But that food, there might be something in there that is really triggering that child and giving it a toxicity burden that it just can't handle. So please definitely keep that in mind. Behavioral changes, so increased in irritability, increase in sensory sensitivities, so sound or light or skin again. Things along those lines can certainly suggest that detox is an issue. It can certainly be related to other things, so viruses, parasites, basically health really triggers changes in irritability, changes in behaviors, regressions, things along those lines, maybe increase in OCD, right? A lot of times an increase in OCD is related to increase in inflammation. Okay, where does that inflammation come from? A lot of people think, okay, there's increase in inflammation. Let me just give fish oils and all these other anti-inflammatories, maybe even get a little aggressive with a week or two of ibuprofen, right? But if the inflammation is actually coming from some kind of exposure to toxicity, you really want to get at that detoxing, right? So it's really having a full understanding of what could be going on and how to really understand the root cause. So when toxicity increases, inflammation can increase. Not always 100%, but it certainly can. So this is the kind of way you want to start thinking about, okay, that behavior changed. Let's really start to analyze it. What's different? So behavior changes can be related to detox, but certainly not always. Another one is unusual body odor. So sometimes either a metallic smell or a sour smell. One parent I remember said it kind of smells like cat pee whenever their child ate this one particular thing. And that one particular thing happened to be something that generally is high in toxicity, with different chemicals. Really, it was more like it was a plant-based product. So unusual body odor is definitely a clue for detoxing, right? And again, then start to figure out, is this all the time? Do they always have that particular odor? Is it after certain issues? Is it after maybe not sleeping, right? Because now toxicity levels will be much higher if you don't get to detox when you're sleeping. So that's another thing that can show that toxicity might be an issue. All right, let's see. We have some comments. I'm just going to put on my glasses for a moment. All right, my medicinal chemistry professor said that glyphosate, wait, hold on one second. I'll put it. My medicinal chemistry professor said that glyphosate is safe for us to consume because humans lack the biochemical pathway that make it harmful. Do you agree? I would so if this was a cup of glyphosate, would I drink it? No, right? Like, why? What's the risk benefit in that situation? So that professor, the question is, how much exposure is he talking about? Now, if I was starving and there was absolutely really no food that I could consume, and there was maybe a few carrots or something like that, and I knew they were grown in the ground that had glyphosate in it, would I eat it? Yeah, I probably would, right? So it's really balancing that. So if a child was showing different behaviors, right, and there is that concern, that's why many parents go organic, because it's like, what is the benefit of trying to give them a carrot, right, which is healthy, that would have glyphosate in it, which is unhealthy, right? So it's all about risk benefit when you're thinking of something like that. Like, would I eat glyphosate? I would certainly try and stay away from it as much as possible. When I was in that initial stage of, well, my health is not really good, I can't sleep, I'm having all these different kind of maybe focusing issues, I can't communicate, right? So all of those symptoms that are related to many of the struggles that our kids with autism have, in that zone, I would say totally not worth it, right? What's the upside? There really is a very small upside. Maybe you would save some money, but then if you were consuming glyphosate, would you want to then have a focus on detox, right? So like I'm looking at all these different detox. Like, so this is an activated bamboo charcoal. I think this goes for, let's say it's somewhere between $50 and $100, right? So my choice could be, all right, do I want to not introduce toxicity with glyphosate, or should I spend money to try and detox what I'm consuming? You know, in the beginning, you really want to have as much of a clean environment as possible. When the kids get healthy and they're back bouncing through life and having fun, can they have some food that might have some glyphosate in it? Yeah, if it doesn't harm them in the sense that they see a regression in the behavior. You have to have some freedom in life. So the goal for navigating autism and all of this is really to have that focus initially when it really makes sense, when the risk benefit is really important there. But then you want to enjoy life, right? So maybe you become 80% organic and things like that. And when you're out socially, you have non-organic foods. It's certainly a personal preference at that. But would I drink glyphosate? No. Would I want to consume high levels of glyphosate? No, not at all. Why? There's no upside. All right. Let's see. All right, next question. We'll go to this. How often labs like oats test, GI map, mycotox, etc. are recommended? Now that really depends on the person. So I'll answer the question in a very general way. The way you want to handle testing, right? You listed out some really great ones, is you want to do the test, you want to have a focus, right? So let's just say the mycotox came back positive for 5 things, right? And so you can quantify them, you can kind of see. It's really hard to get very specific on the location of mold and where's it coming from. That's a whole that's a whole nother YouTube live. But what it is you want to have a test that has a number that guides you and say, okay, this is where we're starting at. And this is the reason why we're going to focus on, let's just say, mold, right? So you want to have that logical thought in your mind, because what happens is you do get, you hear things and people say, oh, did you try this? And it's very easy to just in many ways like doubt yourself and not have a focus. It's like, oh, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this. And that will really get you nowhere fast. So let's just say you do the mycotox. You listed like 4 of them, 4 different tests there. Let's say you do the mycotox. You would spend some time trying to figure out, where is the mold coming from? Is it from the house? Is it in the school? Is it in the food? Was there some kind of leak, right? You've got to identify the exposure. Is it a current exposure or is it a past exposure? And you've got to spend some time, regardless of what the toxin is, right? Even if it's glyphosate, right? You've got to, and you could test for glyphosate. Even if it's a glyphosate, you've got to be able to quantify it and then understand where's the exposure coming from, so that you're not continually to expose your child, because then you're just doing the doggy paddle. You're not going to go anywhere if you're like detoxing and then exposing, detoxing, exposing. So if you're ever starting to feel that kind of like you're caught in a circle, you would want to stop and say, all right, are we sure that the toxin is not being reintroduced? You really have to have a good understanding that that toxin is gone, because with the way this is, you'll just get caught in that loop. So then let's just say you progress. You say, okay, we identified this was the source of the mold. We are getting rid of that. Okay, now you want to focus on what is the therapy, what is the detox protocol. I hate using the word protocol because there's not like one thing to do. You want to think about your child. You want to think about what the toxin was, right? So I have different binders, right? I have, oh my goodness, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different binders, right? They don't all do the same thing, right? And not everybody's going to react well to each of them. So when you're getting into supplements and having that kind of protocol, you really want it to be specific. You don't want it to be just something that you heard in a Facebook group that did well, right? You really want to use the science, use the lab test, use the science that is behind these different products and what they do. So you do the protocol. A lot of times, 6 weeks. I see a lot of doctors. That's their kind of, all right, let's focus on this intently for 6 weeks and then reevaluate. Sometimes it's because detox is kind of harsh on the liver. So sometimes they want to do blood work to make sure liver function is okay. So 6 weeks ballpark, but it really depends on the child and also how things go. So you would do it for 6 weeks, then you could stop and wait maybe a week or two and see, do the behaviors maintain when you stop the protocol, the detoxing, right? That's what you want to see, because you don't want to be detoxing when they're 25 years old, right? And you started when they were 5. Who wants to detox for 20 years? Nobody. So the whole idea is to have that intense focus, have a really good strategy, and then when you stop it, see how long those benefits maintain, and then you can retest. So that's the strategy behind retesting for all of those different tests that you mentioned. Okay, hopefully that answered the question. Oh, and Dennis, you said that answered your question. Fantastic. All right, let's see. There's another one. Okay, my son has severe autism. I've asked his doctor to do urine and stool tests to check for heavy metals and parasites. She said it's not backed by science, so she wouldn't do the test. Well, what kind of doctor did you go to? You can ask the doctor different questions, and you can then get a good understanding of their knowledge base, right? So let's see. And many times in life, it's about finding the person who has the right answers. So maybe your intuition is saying, I really want to check. Oh, Alana, it's a primary care physician. Well, then their expertise, you're outside of their knowledge base, 100%. Here you go. So primary care physician. Primary care is basic stuff. And what you're asking is advanced. So your source of frustration is going to someone and saying, hey, can you tell me about this, when they're over here and that's their expertise. So it's just a mismatch of knowledge base. That's really all it is. So she's wrong. So I mean, I could say that very easily. She's definitely wrong, right? So there are heavy metal protocols that are approved by the FDA, right? So to say that there's no science for heavy metal exposure is 100% wrong, right? The FDA has approved products for chelation, and same as parasites. So that is 100% wrong. There are FDA approved drugs to treat parasites. So now you don't want to do either of those like willy-nilly, and you know, I wouldn't say everybody has issues with detoxing, heavy metals, and parasites. Everyone with autism, no, they don't have that. But is there science? Yeah, 100%. So you're just asking the wrong person the right question. So it's not your question that is wrong. It's just, who are you talking to? where you're getting your answers from. It's just the wrong person. Okay. So certainly keep those questions going. I'll go back to the notes I had that I wanted to cover. We have maybe 5 or so minutes left. I do want to say that if you are interested in learning about the Navigating Autism platform, I'm going to put the link on the banner there, and I'll certainly put it in the chat as well. Hold on one second. And this is for parents, grandparents. We're actually having a grandparent circle later today. The Navigating Autism platform is really for those people who have loved ones that want to understand strategy, want to make sure they're asking the right people the right questions, right? Want to use science to guide their decisions, right? So when you really want a strategy and you're like, listen, I've got to know what I'm doing because I'm just trying a little bit of this and everything. That's when the platform is really beneficial to you. Or we have parents who are right in the beginning. They get the diagnosis, they find me, and they're like, okay, there's so much information, just teach me. Teach me from the beginning. So that is certainly what the platform is about. And if you're interested in it, I certainly invite you to click the link and explore having a conversation with me to see if it's appropriate. You can't just click buy it because I want to make sure it really is the next best thing for you and your child. And I want you to get value from it. And I really work very closely with the parents and grandparents who are on it now. So if you want to speak with me about becoming a member of the platform so that you don't have to wait for these monthly live streams, or you can get your questions answered using science. It's not my opinions that are on the platform. It is science. Then certainly explore the link down below. And I would love to welcome you there. Okay, so let's go back. I'll keep my eye out on the comments. So if you have any more questions, please load them up. All right. So we were talking about body odor, so we covered that. Now, frequent infections. Now, this can indicate a weakened immune system. Really, in many ways, it's like an overwhelmed immune system. It is just working so much, detoxing. Maybe there's viruses and a bacterial infection, a fungal infection. Like there's so much that this is when opportunistic infections can occur, and that really makes you want to think a lot deeper as to, okay, what is given this body so much to deal with that it's overwhelmed, that there's something that is making this body work so much. So weakened immune response, lingering illnesses, that can certainly be contributed by a few different things. So if there's a frequent infection or an infection that really lasts a long time, then you definitely want to think about detoxing and understanding, okay, why is this immune system so overwhelmed? All right, let's keep going. This I'll just cover quickly. So what are the common toxins, right? So you have heavy metals, you have environmental toxins like pesticides, air pollution, plastics, flame retardant, like anything in the environment is something that could potentially be a toxin that has accumulated in your child's body. There's different, they call them gut-derived toxins. So when you have different infections in your gut, those infections, so the bacteria or the fungus or sometimes the virus, they will produce different toxins that is not coming outside externally from the environment. It's coming from the different issues in the gut. So the gut is producing its own toxins. So that certainly can contribute to inflammation, right? And brain fog, different neurological issues. those are certainly very serious, but it gets a little tricky, right? Because the toxin is inside the body being produced. It's not from environmental. So like food-based toxins, that's external. Very easy. Stop eating that. When it's in the gut, it's a little bit more nuanced, but it can happen, and your child can have both. It's not that there's only one that your child can have. Okay, and then the last topic I'll move to is supporting detox naturally and safely, right? So diet is a huge one. So if you remove any toxins that your child is eating, that's just like, whew, oh my goodness, you have no idea how much kids can change when they just stop eating something that's triggering something in their body. It's so important. So different diet changes for sure. Now you don't have to get crazy and be like, all right, we can only eat, like the GAPS diet phase 1, and you've got to be realistic in your diet changes so that they're achievable. Right? That's really the important part. Hydration. Oh goodness, hydration is so important, especially when you start actually detoxing and chelating and doing any of those. You've got to flush it out of the body. So the child has to be peeing frequently. The child, it would be great if they're sweating, so either from a sauna or from jumping on the trampoline or out hiking or playing soccer, running around. You really want the hydration and also the sweating and the excreting. So you want the things to move out. Fiber also helps with bulking up the stool. There's different supplements that can do that very well. But the whole idea is then the poop is moving, right? So we don't want constipation. We want nice poop, everything flowing out. So that's important. There's gut health, right? So that's when you start to think about probiotics. A lot of times the probiotics don't really come in like absolutely first. They're extremely important, but they have a time and a place. So that is definitely certainly important. Sweating, like I said, the sauna is great. Exercise is great, right? So you don't have to have a sauna, but anyway, you can get your child to sweat and run and bounce, right? So when you're bouncing, you're stimulating your lymphatic system. So that is more getting the excretion. You could do dry brushing, right? So dry brushing is really trying to activate the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system has no pump. Our circulatory, our heart, right, has a pump. We can move things in our body, but the lymphatic system doesn't. So the whole jumping, totally fine. The dry brushing, sometimes even the way maybe you dry your child, you do it more with a lymphocytic focus. I've actually started doing that. I think about my lymphatic system way too much. Okay, and then reducing toxin exposure. That I would say is the absolute first step in detox. Absolute first step. You really have to know that you're not reintroducing toxins, because then that's really when things become very difficult and very circuitous. It's just over and over and over again. You feel like you're never getting anywhere because basically you aren't. You're detoxing and toxing at the same time. So if there's any remaining questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I really would love to speak to people about the Navigating Autism platform and how you can use science to have a proper strategy so you don't miss things, so that you can form that synergy, right? How do some parents seem to have this process of getting healthy go much quicker than others? And it's really about having a good strategy and understanding where the focus should be. And that one question that was asked about, retesting, that's something that is certainly important and is all covered in the platform. So I certainly welcome you to explore it. And I'll just leave another 30 seconds or so if there's any last question. I see there are still people here live watching. And now we've increased. So if there's any last minute question, certainly put it in the comments and I would love to answer it. All right, I don't see any more comments. So that wraps up this month's live stream. Thank you very much for voting on the topic. Thank you very much for helping me figure out what it is that would be most beneficial to you to talk about. I didn't show up. I went downstairs and I got all the different kind of detox products. I just grabbed them. So there's carboxy. That's a different way to detox. We have the NDF Calm, that's chlorella, different way of detoxing. We have zeolite, a big container of it. There's activated charcoal. There is GI detox. There is biotoxin binder. There are bamboo charcoal, right? And I mean, I could give you a list of so many things. They don't all have the same focus. They can't just universally be used. You can't just randomly pick one and say, hey, I'm detoxing, So there really is a strategy. And there's a lot of products out there. So just be mindful of what you're using and be very specific. You want to have that focus. That's really important. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.